Okay, dokie. So,
all right, good morning. Good morning. We talk about the Menendez. Whew, we're gonna have to say that name over and over again. It's like Surrendolgore. Menendez bribery scandal this morning. Because, shoo buddy, ain't nothing new under the sun. And good morning. How you doing, Shoka?
I'm all right. I have almost the answer to life, universe, and everything.
You're 41?
Yeah, and tomorrow I'll be 42.
Yes, you will. It's nothing changes.
I mean, honestly, nothing has changed. I mean, obviously 21 was nice because then you can legally drink.
You know, it's funny. My drinking went precipitously downhill after I turned 21. And I don't mean I started drinking more and more. I mean, it just became less interesting. There was no more mystique. There was no more adventure. It was just like, oh, so I can just have a beer at dinner?
You know, the other thing that I noticed is going out drinking was so much more expensive. Like, for what you pay to get a 12-pack and drink it at the house, that's like 3 drinks at a bar.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And then you have to drive home and not get pulled over. Like, it is
Yeah,
So I know
it
what
ain't
you
worth
mean.
it. I'd rather take an air mattress to the farm and just wake up tomorrow to fresh coffee. That's good money right there. Even if it is a long-ass drive.
So anyhow, it doesn't surprise me that 42 is not much different from 41, because 41, it wasn't much different from 40.
It wasn't.
You know, like, don't get me wrong. Like, happy birthday to me. Glad I made it on another trip around the sun. You know, wouldn't have it any other way. But yeah.
So, this morning we're going to be talking about a rare breed indeed, because you never see these. A corrupt Democrat. Ooh. You wanted to talk about this one, so you want to open us up on this one?
Okay. Well, will you pull up the meme then, please?
Yes.
Okay, here's part of why I wanted to discuss this. This meme made me angry because it says, because Senator Menendez is a Democrat, his whole party is telling him to step down. If he's a Republican, he'd be running for the presidency. So let's just start with the surface level thing.
How many Democrats are telling Joe Biden to step down?
No, that wasn't going to be what I was going to say. I was just going to say, let's start with the super obvious. It looks like Bob Menendez might actually be guilty of the things that he's been indicted of. It's not an obviously political prosecution intended to disrupt a presidential election cycle that has been extremely well fortified.
Right. Now, in fairness, he is up for re-election next year. He is entering a campaign cycle. Now, also in fairness, it should be noted that the judge hasn't intentionally scheduled any of his court dates with the obvious explicit intent to interfere with electoral activity. Like, I don't know, putting Donald Trump's court date on the day before Super Tuesday.
Yeah, so, but look, let's just recap real quick exactly what's going on with Bob Menendez. He was, until very recently, the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he's been under investigation for a long time. And I mean, and apparently there's like...
And this isn't the first time.
Yeah, and apparently there's stuff with other countries. There's cash that, and this is really weird. Like, apparently, like, some $480,000, like, just in the pockets of tracksuits. Like, is this an episode of the fucking Sopranos? Like, what? It's so weird that it...
Did you get a deli sandwich with that bribe?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, keep the cannoli, leave the gun. Like, what?
Right.
Anyhow, some bizarre things like solid gold bars. And if you wanted to give me a solid gold bar, I would take it.
Oh, yeah, I love taking my bribes in gold.
Anyhow, if you were to give me a solid gold bar, I would take it. But, you know, what was the movie with, like, Mark Wahlberg and Edward Norton and Charlize Theron? You know the one I'm talking about? They were able to steal the gold back from Edward Norton's character because it turns out...
The Italian Job.
The Italian Job. Because it turns out when you've got giant solid gold bars...
They're hard to move. They're
hard to move because they're a giant solid gold bar. So... Anyhow, it's weird. There's things going on with Bob Menendez's case that might even be exaggerated for the public's consumption. And I'm not saying that I don't think Bob Menendez is crooked or a piece of shit or anything like that. But y'all, he just kept hundreds of thousands of dollars in the pockets of tracksuits at his house.
Yeah. And according to CNN, prosecutors allege the bribes included gold, cash, home mortgage payments, and compensation for low or no-show jobs and a luxury vehicle. The luxury vehicle in question, I believe, is a new Bentley. Is that what that is?
It's a Mercedes-Benz.
It's a Benz. Okay. So
Bentley's
nice
kind of
car.
like a gold bar.
Here you go. Tracksuits full of cash. That's way less fun than folders full of women.
Binders full of women.
Binders full of women. You know, if he were to say that today, it'd be a transphobic comment.
Sure. That's man.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So accusations of corruption. And by the way, I pulled up the CNN article on this one because, frankly, to no one's surprise, the press coverage on this story is a little thin. But the CNN article I lost my spot. For years. Okay. Damn, I lost my spot. Search turned up $500,000 in cash or more, according to the indictment. Searched in Menendez's home and a safe deposit box that federal agents conducted in 2022 turned up nearly $500,000 in cash, including in envelopes inside jackets emblazoned with Menendez's name. And boy, howdy, let me just sign the envelope that I'm being bribed with.
I don't. That's part of why. That's part of why I feel like so much of this is really weird, and details of it might not be true. And why do I say that? Well, like Gretchen Whitmer, just that whole situation, just as an example.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, everybody who had faced any charges in that, all of the civilians who had faced any charges in that, were completely acquitted. The courts have found, oh no, this was straight up an FBI conspiracy.
Yeah, so
your point is well taken there.
Yeah, so let's say Bob Menendez is a piece of shit.
That's fair.
Okay.
He's a New Jersey Democrat.
Right. Now, and let's even take it a step further and say not only is he a piece of shit, but let's say he's a piece of shit who, because he's the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he's in a rather unique position to, set up friends and family to take advantage of foreign business deals, and just let that one sit there for a second. We're gonna circle back to that motherfucking point right there. But let's just say, hold on.
The no-show contract stuff is a major supporting evidentiary piece to your point.
Anyhow, let's say he is a piece of shit. Let's say that he is even a deeply corrupt piece of shit. But let's say it's all boring stuff that doesn't look good on TV, doesn't play well to headlines, all that kind of stuff. What if we just went ahead and added a little more evidence on top that was like really salacious? Like, hey, I've got an idea. What if we just add some monogrammed tracksuits with cash sewn into the lining so that when we bring this to the public, Bob Menendez is he's just screwed. And why would we do that? Well, so we could post memes about, because Bob Menendez is a Democrat.
Well, and Pitt Danny points out Bob didn't agree with Joe on Ukraine. Probably because all of Bob's no-show contract buddies were in a different foreign country. But that is a good point. Bucking the narrative as a Democrat is career suicide. Having free thoughts as a Democrat is career suicide. And shit, I'm not sure where to go forward with this because you wanted to come back around to the thing, and I don't want to step on your thunder there. But the So, okay, let me back up a little bit. The original corruption trial of Menendez ended in a mistrial, okay? And which is to say that he was not convicted, but it is also not correct to say that he was found not guilty. It ended at a mistrial, and the charges were dropped after the jury reported that it was deadlocked in 2017, right? So his co-conspirator in the original, his accused co-conspirator in the original trial was convicted on dozens of counts of healthcare fraud and sentenced to 17 years in separate cases. But we're talking about Menendez, and basically it looks like a deadlocked jury resulted in him just getting let go without the question being resolved. Now, I find that by itself particularly interesting and at least somewhat suspicious. I mean, we're not just talking about a corrupt Democrat. We're talking about a corrupt Democrat in New Jersey. If New Jersey is famous for anything, it's corruption and jury tampering. Right?
It's where The Sopranos was set, exactly. Ironically enough.
and not ironically, for a reason, right? There's certain stereotypes, or stereotypes generally, are not just manifested out of thin air without anything to back them. They're the heuristic observation of related data sets. The reason that the stories about the mob and, okay, so we've got organized crime is tied up with construction companies, unions, and Democrats. That's not just an entertaining plot device for The Sopranos.
It's based on reality.
That's the history of the United States in every major city, most especially those cities in the Northeast, right? Most especially New York, New Jersey, right? So the jury, okay, so you only have to bribe half the jury to get away with it.
Actually, you only have to successfully bribe one jury member.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not trying to nitpick the details,
right.
But like the point is, you don't have to bribe the entire jury. You don't even have to bribe anybody on the jury. Sure would be a shame if your granddaughter were to have an accident on the way to school one morning.
Yeah, I mean,
that's enough for most people right there to alter their behavior.
How hard would it be to just say, okay, the jury summons have gone out. Did anybody in the organization get a summons? Doesn't even matter if you get on the jury. We just want you to talk about some stuff while you're hanging out with everybody waiting to get picked.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And don't make threats. You don't tell them you'd be ashamed if something were to happen. No. You just hang out and you're like, man, I got called in for jury duty. I'm missing work today. This is bullshit. And man, I don't want to be on no jury. This Bob guy, you know who he's dealing with? I don't want them coming after my family.
No, I
don't want these people going to my kids' school. I don't want these people going to my mama's retirement home. Right? Hell, be mad about it. Don't even be scared about it. The point is that you are disseminating the information in a way that is surreptitiously efficient for the criminal activity.
So I'm going to come back around now and put the button on it because Brian Dawson said, do you smell a scapegoat? And then somebody named Desert Rat NM popped up on Rumble.
Morning.
Welcome
to the show.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Hit the watch me every day button.
So here's my theory that this is Bob Menendez guilty? Yes. But
obviously.
but in all seriousness, so is, I don't know, Nancy Pelosi,
Clearly.
Ilhan Omar. You know,
it's Trish. It's my mother-in-law.
There's the one with the jalapeno salt.
That's the one.
The latest batch was delicious. I brought it to work and shared it with a few people, and a few people at work also thought that it was delicious. And it's that jalapeno salt.
You know, I bet you could break that brick up into taints and sell them for like $12 a shot.
Anyhow, this is my theory. Bob Menendez is guilty, but so are so many other people in Congress and the Senate, and but you need a sacrificial lamb, and Bob Menendez has been accused of doing bad stuff before. Well, if we throw Bob Menendez overboard for stuff that he's obviously guilty of, and maybe ever so slightly just exaggerate the evidence that we have against him, we can put out memes like the ones that were just that we started out with. And also allows you to say, you know, Orange Man bad over and over and over again, and the Justice Department's just trying to do its job, and no one's above the law, except obviously the vast majority of Congress and the Senate. Bob Menendez is not going down because he's guilty. He's going down because he's sloppy. And he's so, if the stuff about the money in the tracksuits is true, which again, I'm still not real sure is, but if the stuff about the money in the tracksuits is true, the man is so arrogant that it made him sloppy. It's, you know, you got to have some plausible deniability. But, you know, just an interesting little factoid, interesting little thing. Do you know who else was a ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee? And I mean, for years was a ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Anybody want to guess? Anybody want to guess?
Cameron? Who might that have been?
Do you want to give the chat a second to guess?
Come on, guys. I'm counting on you. Somebody knows.
Yeah, just guess. It's the most obvious guess in the world. This is going to tell us how long of a delay we have. They haven't even heard the question yet. So.
We're waiting for them to hear the question.
Well, okay, that dead air sucks. So I'm just gonna.
It does. Please move forward.
So I'm just gonna jump right to it. Joe Biden.
Yep.
Joe Biden was a ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. In fact, part of why Barack Obama picked him to be his vice president is because Obama was basically a nothing burger when he got elevated to the presidency. He needed somebody with age and experience and gravitas behind him in order to say that he could do the foreign policy stuff.
And you know, the foreign money didn't hurt his case.
I'm not even accusing Barack Obama of being involved in the foreign money. I'm just saying, just on the purely on the optics, politics level of it, Obama needed.
It's not even a foregone conclusion. It's a proved fact. The foreign money element.
Obama needed a Dick Cheney, and he got one. Take that for what it's worth.
Oh shit! It's a white boy.
But yeah, and so you have to wonder. And I don't wonder. I now strongly suspect that, like I said at the beginning of the show, let's say you wanted to set up your friends and family to, I don't know, maybe get a job.
Big construction projects in Afghanistan.
But yes, what you just said. Let's say you wanted to take your son and put him on the board of an energy company in Ukraine. Yeah, just say you wanted to take your son and put him on the board of an energy company in Ukraine, even though he doesn't speak the language and has no experience in the energy sector.
Yeah, make no mistake, there is conflict in Ukraine right now because the U.S. government, the Ukrainian government, and Vladimir Putin are actively struggling to obfuscate a massive corruption conspiracy that has been proceeding between those three entities for decades, probably just around half of the tenure of Joe Biden's political career. Right? I do not suspect that Russia or the Ukraine elevated Joe Biden to office, a little over half a century ago. But somewhere, Joe got real friendly with some Eastern Bloc commies and some Eastern Bloc Nazis. And they built a powerful machine. And then Joe's brain started to slip. His crackhead son started to get seriously uncareful. And three powerful criminal organizations, that would be the private organizations of Vladimir Putin, the less private organizations of the Ukrainian oligarch system, and the Biden crime family, in conjunction with the similarly corrupt DNC, all basically got outed by Joe's mental decline, his inability to avoid saying the quiet parts out loud, and Hunter's just whirlwind crack party. I mean, you had a global coke party in Hunter Biden that has threatened to expose a lot of dirty little secrets. And when you look at the constructed organization of the Democrat National Committee, you're looking at a thing that is made up of individual smaller corrupt organizations. It is an organization of corrupt organizations, right? You look at the involvement that they have, like we mentioned before, with unions, and you've got multi-million-dollar paid writers in Hollywood striking right now to get paid more. You've got the UAW strike, where United Auto Workers are demanding that the price of vehicles be raised, right? And never forget, when a union strikes, part of what they're demanding is that the company takes more of your money for the product, right? That's somewhat oversimplified, but never forget that unions do not strike against companies. They strike against consumers. The strike against the company is a guise for that. And then you look at organizations like Planned Parenthood, which you can compare to organizations like the NRA. Organizations like the NRA that ostensibly support conservative Republican positions, they're privately funded. They're funded through donations by private individuals. Whereas the organizations that support Democrat positions are publicly funded. They receive tax money. They're essentially little more than money laundering operations that take money out of your pocket at gunpoint to stuff into the pockets of people like Bob Menendez. Because so the NRA makes financial contributions to politicians. But those contributions come to it from the private contributions of its individual members. Whereas organizations like Planned Parenthood, and there are no analogous organizations as far as supporting conservative positions and being publicly funded in that way, especially not at that scale. But then you get to Planned Parenthood, and it's literally just tax money being dumped in there in public funding, not private donation. And Planned Parenthood receives private donations as well, but NRA receives private donations exclusively. So Planned Parenthood is taking tax money and funneling it into corrupt Democrat political parties and campaigns. Planned Parenthood is an organization that uses tax dollars to fund election interference through Democrat policies and utter lawlessness, right? So it's just one big money laundering scheme.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I guess we could put a pin in it right there. It's time to wrap it up, and we love you. We will see you tomorrow.